Welcome to the Production Expert podcast. I'm Ashea, and in this edition, I'm joined by music producer, audio engineer, and children's book author of Delasi On A Mission, about a young girl from Ghana who wants to get into music production. The author's name is Nana, and she's here with us right now. But just to begin this conversation, I just want to bring up the current numbers, and this is from Music Radar magazine from March this year, and it is entitled, The Numbers Are Going Backward. A new report finds that 2025 saw no progress for women in music. The percentage of women credited as songwriters in the Hot 100 decreased from 18.9% into 2024 to 14.5% in 2025, a ratio of 5.8 male songwriters to every one woman. The report's conclusions are troubling, they say, finding that 2025 saw no progress for women in music, with a decrease in participation across every single category measured. The percentage of female artists dropped by 1.6% year on year to 36.1% in 2025, while the percentage of women credited as producers fell from 5.9% in 2024 to 4.4% in 2025. And so we will be discussing this and why this children's book is a very, very welcome thing, particularly in the current climate. So let's get into it.
This podcast is sponsored by Genelec. If you've ever been disappointed with the way your mixes sound on other playback systems, then check out Genelec's Unio monitoring ecosystem. By providing a seamless bridge between loudspeaker and headphone monitoring, Unio allows you to quickly create great-sounding mixes that translate consistently wherever you choose to work. No more guesswork, no more surprises. Just truthful, accurate audio monitoring from stereo to immersive. To find out more, visit genelec.com/unio, spelled UNIO. Your mixes will thank you for it.
Welcome, Nana, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So, to begin with, could you tell the listeners a bit about you and your experience getting into the audio and music industry?
Yeah, sure. Where do I start? I've been making music since I was a kid, to be quite honest with you. I started off writing music. That slowly turned into rapping. And then for a good part of my teen years, up until like my early 20s, I was heavily involved in like grime music. So that was my thing. But then it got to a point where in my mind, I've always wanted to create music for other people. You know, I've always been in love with the studio. So I always wanted to have a studio. I've always just loved equipment too. So in my mind, I was like, okay, what do I need to do next?
Right.
And it was just like a natural progression into music production. I did a bit of research, spoke to some friends who produced music at the time. I was like, yeah, I wanna start making beats. What do I need? And yeah, just kind of kicked off from there. So it's been about 10 years now, to be honest, since I've been making music, producing music. Yeah.
That's really interesting. It's kind of similar to my story a bit, because I started off doing songwriting as well, and then just kind of found that love of, in the process of wanting to release music, I realized how much I liked production and being in the studio. And
of course, yeah.
But 10 years ago, so that was kind of it's not too long ago, but it was far enough back to be not having a lot of representation, to put it lightly, with women in the industry. So how was that experience?
Definitely. And I think for me, one of the interesting things is because I started off rapping, I was already always one of the only women doing that. So I knew, okay, cool. When it comes to rapping, you know, it was always viewed as something that's quite masculine. So I was aware that within that space, there wouldn't be really many women. Funnily enough, as I was growing up though, especially in the UK, there were at least 3 or 4 women that I saw who produced music. So in that aspect, it wasn't too foreign to me. Like, even in my decision to become a music producer, I knew that there were some women that did exist and created music.
And were these friends, or were they?
No, these weren't friends. These were just women that I would see, especially because when I was coming up, you know, the blog era, the internet era, it was really, really popular. MySpace, all of that. So these were women that I would just kind of like come across on the internet and see them doing their thing. And I was like, okay, this is great, you know, women are doing this. I think for me, where it changed is that, so my family is from Ghana. I go there occasionally, and it was a trip maybe like just under 10 years ago, actually. It was a trip there where I went to, first of all, go and set up a recording studio and just basically work with the local artists. It was there where I truly discovered that music production was almost like a foreign concept to women. Yeah, that's when it was really like, oh, this is interesting.
Being in the UK, it's one thing, but we still have representation. But then when you went to Ghana...
Exactly.
So what was it, the cultural influence?
I think it's exactly that. I think it's the cultural influence. I think over there, even here, but I think over there to an even higher extent, women are not taught to be in these spaces producing music. No, you can be a singer, you know, that's fine. You can potentially be a rapper, but being the person who's behind the boards, creating the music, no, that's just something that didn't exist, to the point where I ended up working with some big artists from the country, you know, these artists who traveled all around the world, worked with different people, and I was still the only female producer that they had ever worked with. And that things like that just really like blew my mind. So I kind of went on a mission to be like, okay, why is this happening? I don't want to be the only woman doing this. What can I do to encourage more women to get into production?
Yeah, and that is a really brave kind of stance to take as well, especially when you have so much pushback, because it's not just like you need representation, it's also the treatment that women, particularly in those particular cultures as well. I've faced it as a white woman in the UK and even in the US as well. You know, there's that side of it, but then there's kind of, you know, there's a racism part, there's cultural parts as well. So I'd like to get into that, because it makes it twice as difficult. So yeah, tell us about that.
No, you're right. And I think we have to kind of be conscious of that as well. And again, that's why being in Ghana and understanding that, first of all, women aren't really into music production, then looking at like the cultural side of it, and then even just looking like on a global scale, how are we represented on like a global scale, you know? So you can have women who are producing music, but then you can start looking at like all the different intersections. Okay, what race are these women? Where are they from? All that kind of stuff. I think it's really important to acknowledge that. But it's almost like, you know, where do you start? Because it's such a difficult thing to try and penetrate and almost resolve, I would say. So I'm still trying to figure out what can I do, and what can I do, and I think that's why. So I wrote a children's book, Delasi On A Mission, and for me that was just one way I thought at the time I could contribute to the landscape, contribute to the industry, and create that visibility of women producing music. You know.
Yeah.
The Production Expert Podcast is made possible using the new Source Nexus suite from Source Elements, the professional way to collaborate over the internet, along with high-definition, low-latency audio and video. Need to record an interview or a podcast, or collaborate with others for songwriting, review and approval, remote editing, and more. With Source Nexus suite, using any browser, you'll get studio-quality audio and video, along with custom-built tools for seamless integration with your DAW. Pricing starts at free. Get your account today at sourceelements.com.
There's the well-known phrase, I'm sure you've heard it, it's you have to see it to be it. And some people say, oh no, that's not true. But I honestly, and I'm kind of similar to you, that there were women, female producers when I was starting, but there weren't enough for it to get into my head that I didn't have to be an artist or a singer in order to do music. And I don't know why that didn't occur to me. And it was because I didn't see it. And so having this book, which is a fantastic idea, it's really original idea. So well done.
Thank you.
Is kind of what I would love to have had as a young girl growing up.
No, I completely agree. For me, visibility is everything. If you don't see yourself somewhere, then you don't know that you can be there. Like you just don't know, right? Yeah. So creating the book again was one way that I felt like, okay, this is how we increase visibility. If the book is able to reach young girls, you know, they're seeing the book cover, it's a young girl on it. Yeah. They're reading the story. It's a young girl who's doing all these incredible things specifically to do with music production, specifically to do with music tech, learning about the studio environment, learning about different instruments, all that kind of thing, you know. It's very specific to that music tech angle. Yeah. And I love what you said about, you don't have to be a singer or be this and then maybe produce, because also what I did find coming up is that even though there were women producing, it was sometimes like maybe the second or third thing that they did. So they felt like, okay, maybe I have to write my songs and be an artist, or maybe I have to do this and do that. But no, how can we get to a place where a young kid, because I always see it like, you know, when you were like maybe 7 or 8 and then people start asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you start saying the typical, I want to be a doctor, whatever, you know, whatever the things. How lovely would it be if we start to get young girls to say, oh, I'll be a music producer. And it's not foreign. It's not a foreign concept. It's something that's understood by everybody. And they have that support to push them into that career. And there's clear pathways to success from it, you know?
Yeah. And I love it as well, the fact that, because there are, you know, women embracing the fact that it's not, you don't have to be masculine, you don't have to, you know, simulate male style behavior in order to be a successful music producer. You can be absolutely really girly. I'm sure Delasi, she's got a pink cover and everything. So we're not going against, you know, female stereotypes in order to try to be successful. We're embracing the fact that we're women, girls, and we can do what we like, which is great.
Exactly. Let's embrace our femininity. Yeah. Let's let that femininity contribute into the industry, because it can be powerful, you know? So 100%. Definitely.
So could you tell us a bit about Delasi then? Who is she? How does she fall in love with music production?
So she's 12 years old, and she essentially grows... It's funny because story kind of mirrors my life a little bit. So yeah, she grows up in a household where her family loves music. Her parents love music. There's always music playing. And the thing that sparks her interest is not necessarily like the words or what the singer is doing. It's more so the instrumentation, the beat behind it.
Okay, cool.
And she expresses this to her parents. She's like, I don't know what it's called, but I want to be the person that does this. And then her parents are extremely supportive. They're like, yeah, sure. And they basically get her first set of equipment, a good old MIDI keyboard, a laptop, a pair of headphones. And she kind of just gets to work just learning how to produce music. And obviously, because it is a children's book, you know, you have to add in a little interesting sort of fantasy element. So her wardrobe actually doubles as like a teleporting machine.
Wow.
And she gets sent on these missions around the world to like help artists create music. And in the book, so there's going to be a few more stories coming from this, but in this sort of first story, the first place that she goes to is actually Ghana. So she gets into the studio with some artists from Ghana, and she essentially creates the beat for them, creates music for them, and it's just kind of taking you through that journey of her expressing her interest to her parents, getting that support, learning to create music. And then that, because when I started making music, I always said to myself, you know, I would love to be in a position where music is what takes me around the world, you know? Mm-hmm. So she, and I think that also shows the aspect of it being like a viable career as well. Yeah. Right. So it can be your passion, but it can also be something that you rely on financially, potentially as well, you know? So yeah, she travels the world, creates music for artists, and yeah, it kind of just tells that story. So I had to think creatively when I was writing it, because again, you're writing it to influence like a young audience. So if you see the book, the pictures in it are, the illustration is very vibrant. The colors are bold and beautiful. There's illustrations of like a recording studio. That would be like the first time a lot of children even see what a recording studio is. You know, you've got the big desk, then you've got instruments on the wall. Try to be as really descriptive as possible as I could be as well, just to reinforce those elements and get their imagination going as well. So yeah,
that's fantastic. So what made you choose the illustrator? Are they someone you know? Did you admire their work beforehand?
It was somebody whose work I admired. Again, it was somebody, I think we had a mutual friend on Instagram or something. And funny enough, and I wasn't looking for it, but he just happened to be a Ghanaian illustrator. So I was like, okay, this is perfect, because it worked well with the story that I was trying to tell as well. So when Delasi arrives in Ghana, you know, she arrives on like the busy streets of the capital, and the illustrator, being somebody who lives there and has grown up there, he's able to kind of just paint that perfect picture. So yeah, and his illustration for me was just beautiful. The colors, the effects that he used were just beautiful. And as well, when I was writing the book, I was really writing it from a perspective as well of like, if I was to see this as an animation, like on TV, what would I want the kind of characters to look like? So yeah, that kind of all came into it when I was choosing my illustrator. So yes, he did a great job.
That's an excellent point as well. It's like when you come up with songs, I often get music video ideas. I think it happens to a lot of artists and producers.
100%.
Is that kind of what happened when you were writing the book? Like you were saying, you had the character in mind and the colours and the visuals.
Everything. I still have all of that in mind. So if anybody's listening who can animate, you know, wants to help me develop this, reach out. But yeah, because I think as well, just exploring different mediums of like communicating this message. I love books. So of course, you know, putting it out in the form of a book was great. But then also, how cool would it be to be able to watch something like this on TV, you know, on CBeebies or something, you know, wherever the kids are watching things these days.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
This podcast is sponsored by Genelec. If you've ever been disappointed with the way your mixes sound on other playback systems, then check out Genelec's Unio monitoring ecosystem. By providing a seamless bridge between loudspeaker and headphone monitoring, Unio allows you to quickly create great-sounding mixes that translate consistently wherever you choose to work. No more guesswork, no more surprises. Just truthful, accurate audio monitoring from stereo to immersive. To find out more, visit genelec.com/unio, spelled UNIO. Your mixes will thank you for it.
So you're sort of promoting it in Ghana, and obviously the character Delasi is from Ghana, and that's fantastic. So in terms of, because we have this problem is existing in the UK, the US, it's worldwide as well. Are you sort of, you know, adjusting your approach in terms of what do you think we need to do to get better representation in general in Ghana and in the UK, for example?
That's a good question. So I think even with the character Delasi, that's what I said. It kind of mirrors my life a bit. So the story initially is set here in England, in London, and then she kind of travels to Ghana. I think what we need to do here, like just like on a global scale in general, is just think of what are we actually doing to encourage more women to get into like music production. You know, where are because we can have all these programs, we can have like all these policies in place, but what are we actually doing on the ground to get more women into like music production? So I think there's a step that just needs to be taken, which is around definitely increasing visibility. So this is the example I can think of. So when the Lionesses they won the Euros, right? A couple years ago.
Yep.
And that was such a great moment.
Absolutely.
Because immediately you saw how the footballers, their images were being like plastered everywhere. There's just more intention behind, the marketing around it. You're seeing little girls expressing more of an interest in football.
Yep.
There's just more hype surrounding it because, they've won. So I think maybe what we can do as well is think of how do we support each other more. So when one woman has done something great, how are we lifting them up? How are we making sure that they're, whether it's their face or their music, it is spread around? So how do we continue to lift each other up? I think that's one way, because I think it gets people excited. And not only, I'm, as a woman, for me, it's amazing to see another woman creating music and being a music producer, but it's even better for like the men to see this as well.
Yeah.
Because what that does is it starts to reduce the bias that people have in their head, when they think of like music production and audio, it's always naturally being gendered towards men. So
that's a really good point as well, because we talk about representation in the idea of that women need to see it and young girls need to see it. But yeah, like you say, men, when they start to see, okay, this is a reality.
Of course.
It's not as bad as initially thought as well. They're not going to be nagging me in the studio.
And why? Yeah, exactly. And why do they think it's bad? I think it's challenging the thinking as well. And I know that's not an easy thing. That's society, right? That's patriarchy. It's all of these things. It's going to take a few generations for things like that to be completely dismantled. But yeah, we need our allies. We definitely need our allies as well. So yeah,
definitely. And female solidarity. Obviously, the male allies are absolutely fantastic. But female solidarity is always going to be the greatest thing in order to,
of course,
get more women to thrive in this industry. And I also think as well, it's really great to see, I think more in the past than today, but it's still obviously really prevalent today. But this idea that there's like loads and loads of spaces on the table for men and roles, and then there's like 1 or 2 roles for women, and it's a big competition. I think just removing that as well, it's like, no, it doesn't have to be one woman and a load of men. It can be loads and loads of successful women. We can all succeed. We don't have to compete for limited spaces.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the great thing as well about today, one thing I will say is, even sometimes when I'm on my Instagram, just scrolling, you're just sitting down, you're just scrolling on my reels, like it feels like more women are gaining the confidence to be like, yeah, I produce music, and they're just kind of, creating these reels on Instagram and just expressing themselves and feeling more free to do so as well.
Yeah.
So I think there seems to be like a community element that is really being pushed forward as well. And I think, things like the internet help so much with that. So yeah, I think that's really positive too.
Absolutely. And so how do you think parents and educators can encourage girls and women to explore, creative roles, production roles?
That's a great question. I think allow the children in your life to be curious. Allow them to be curious. If you have somebody if you have a child that is expressing any interest in any behind the scenes sort of creative roles, allow them to ask questions. Think about what you can do as the adult in their life to make it more real for them as well. And I think as parents and educators as well, we can also be more forward thinking, opening our minds as well a bit more as to what's happening today in today's creative landscape. I think that there's so much talk around AI and, how it's used in everyday life, how it's used in like the creative industry. I think parents are privy to that conversation, especially if they've got like children in school. Educators, of course, are going to be extremely privy to that. So just even thinking about, okay, how what can they do from that perspective to maybe just dig a bit deeper and explore like opportunities for girls, for them to, you know, just explore. That's I think a big part of it is also just being open, you know.
Yeah.
Be open, be curious. Do not make the girls feel bad for wanting to understand more about something that maybe historically they haven't necessarily been involved in. No, be open, you know, be open, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think the culture is slowly, particularly in Ghana, do you think it's slowly shifting that way?
I think in Ghana, I would say from when I first started working there, from like 8 years ago to now, there's many more women who are actively producing, who are engineering. I have a group, one of my really good friends, she lives in Ghana now. You know, one of the again, at the time, one of the things that we thought we could do that would be cool would be, okay, we created a project, we produced the beats ourselves, we mixed and mastered it ourselves. So, you know, again, putting that out was a way to show that, hey, look, us two girls, we did this. If you want to do it, you can do it. So again, and I think just kind of going back to like globalization and the internet, I think being able to see other people do it has given more like women over there the confidence. Even over here, I would say, I would say there's definitely, like, somebody sent me a message the other day. They were like, yeah, they're putting on a workshop, a female production workshop. And I was like, oh, that's really good. Those are the things that we need to see, you know, having those spaces for women to go and feel comfortable. And hey, maybe you're not a full-fledged producer yet. Maybe you just want to be in a studio. You just want to see what happens, you know, but being able to have those environments and those spaces, I think, is super important. So I think, yeah, things are happening slowly. And yeah, it will just take some time, but it will take like commitment from us as the creatives, from the people who are putting policies together, you know, all that kind of stuff. It will take like a big effort and a real commitment to want to see this change.
Yeah, and that you mentioned policies as well, which is also really important as well, because there can be a lot of barriers, not just, you know, visualizing and stuff like that, but financial barriers. There can be other things like pregnancy as well, and you know, just having access and feeling safe in the studio as well. I think it's important to maybe touch on that as well, because safety can really be a thing.
I think safety is I think I even think back to like some of my experiences, and just because of the way it's been, I think every studio session I've ever had, the majority of them for a while, were always just with men. And you can have some sessions which are okay. Then you have some sessions with some guys who are a bit like, it's like, okay, I've come here to focus. I've come here to make my music. You're now talking about things that have no place to be spoken about in the studio, you know, and that can make you feel uncomfortable. It can make you not want to go back to the studio, you know. Unfortunately, there are some men that will just take advantage of a woman in the studio. So being able to have a space where, you know, where you can go and it's women only and it's friendly and nobody's trying to like dim your light or make you feel awkward or make you feel uncomfortable. I think that's super super important, and probably something we should talk about more, because I feel like every woman that I know that does music, whether you're a producer or artist, like, you've probably had a negative experience in the studio with a man, and you know, naturally it will put you off. So yeah.
The Production Expert Podcast is made possible using the new Source Nexus suite from Source Elements, the professional way to collaborate over the internet, along with high-definition, low-latency audio and video. Need to record an interview or a podcast, or collaborate with others for songwriting, review and approval, remote editing, and more. With Source Nexus suite, using any browser, you'll get studio-quality audio and video, along with custom-built tools for seamless integration with your DAW. Pricing starts at free. Get your account today at sourceelements.com.
And I do think there was a time several years ago now where it was a really big thing to talk about, and obviously for good reason. But then we've got to this point where there's kind of a bit of a pushback. You know, there's like, obviously what's going on, I don't want to get into that, in America and everything. There's this kind of pushback to where I do think women kind of feel awkward about talking about it, because most of the guys are really nice and supportive, and you feel like you're sort of attacking good guys. But how do we tackle that without, you know, hurting people's feelings? Or do we care about hurting people's feelings?
That's such a good thing. And I wonder, do we care?
Yeah.
Because it's not something that's going to be solved easily. And again, it kind of goes back to that whole point of like society and men and patriarchy and all of that. You often, as women, will often be talking, and we might say men this or men that.
Yeah.
Then you'll get that one person who will be like, oh, you'll get that one guy that will be like, oh, not me though.
Yeah.
Oh, not me. Yeah, we're not talking about you specifically, but in general, right? The statistics don't lie. The figures don't lie. Like, we as women, we are at risk of being, in like harassed by men, especially when we are in vulnerable situations. So I think I don't know, because that's one I struggle with. I don't know what actually needs to be done because it's a mindset thing, right? I don't know. I struggle with that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I just have I would say that, and it always comes back to the women that have really, really fought, like yourself, and the people that came, before you. The ones that had it so difficult and had to deal with this stuff, and obviously all the women that are still dealing with all of this.
Of course.
But we are making it a safer, better, nicer place, because every single woman that we have in a studio environment, just working at a typically male-dominated company, each time that happens, we're making it safer, nicer. We're inspiring the next generation of, young women. So
100%. And I think even just building on that further with like the policy side of things, like we know that there's loads of policies and diversity and inclusion policies that are like being put together to ensure that women can be in the room. So I think things like that are really important. Off the top of my head, I think the PRS Foundation have something called like the Key Change Initiative. And again, that's about looking at how to get more women through the door in terms of like music production. We've got funding bodies who make sure that any organisations who are applying for funding, they have to show some sort of commitment to, women and how they're bringing them in. So I think there's the appetite for it. It just needs to continue. The policy is great, but policy oftentimes, if we're not careful, then it can just become almost like documentation. It's just kind of there. It's just kind of there, Yeah. So we also need to make sure there's like structural change happening as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. And the more we spread the word, obviously, the better. I do have to say though that I'm, I've been to a few studios lately, and I was quite pleasantly surprised by the amount of women engineers and
love that.
Women in reception, and it just makes it so much, such a more welcoming, lovely place to be. So I do think there are a lot of people out there, really helping with the change.
They're trying. I agree. That's great.
Yeah. Cool. So going back to Delasi and her mission, which is fantastic, where, if money was no option or anything like that, where would you see the Delasi on a mission heading to? You said CBBC. Would there be like a Delasi on a mission land, a bit like Disneyland?
That's a great question. And this is where, if you're not careful, I will go on forever, because the ideas I have in my head. Oh gosh, I think for me, the way I even wrote this story, the way it kind of ends on like a cliffhanger. So for me, there's a part two I've already started working on. So that will be really exciting once I'm able to sort of get that out there.
Nice.
But for me, like I said, the animated version of this is for me is the thing I really want to get to. That is the animation, is the story of Delasi traveling to like these different countries. It's also the story of being able to show talent from just different countries across the world as well, and how that can fit into animation. I would love to have almost like would it be a doll? Not a doll, but like,
yeah, that would be cool.
Like
a little brat doll, or a Delasi Barbie, something like that.
It. Something like that, with her holding like the keyboard, or something like that, just to like, be in the house, that kind of thing. But I think something I also really want to do is, again, bringing Delasi to life, so I'm able to take her into like schools and do these workshops for kids, so that they can just learn the basics of music production as well. That's something I'm really keen on doing as well. So yeah, I've got loads of stories for Delasi, and yeah, big visions for her. But yeah,
that's just brilliant. And I didn't ask before, but do you have a background in writing, or is it just something that
That's a good question. I just love writing. I love writing. I've just ever since I was young, I loved writing. I think it was one of my main strengths. So when I was younger, one of the things my dad always got me to do, which I really, especially now looking back, I really appreciate. Whenever I would read a book, in order to kind of help retain the information, I'd write like a summary after. So that again helped with my writing skills throughout school. I think what I did as my degree, just all of it has helped me be a writer. And I think in my mind as well, I always knew I wanted to write a book. I never knew what I would write a book on. I think, I didn't expect it to be a children's book, but I had my daughter, and then, yeah, it kind of all just made sense.
How old's your daughter?
So my daughter is 4.
Oh,
yeah, she'll be 5 later this year. And she was a big part as to why as well. I was like, okay, this has to be a children's book. It's really important for me that my daughter's able to see that she as well, if she wants to be a producer or whatever she wants to be, She knows mummy goes to the studio. So even a few days ago, she was like, oh, can I come to the studio with you?
Bless.
I was like, yeah, I love that. You will very soon.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that's
just really, it's a really original idea. It's great.
Thank you. Yeah.
So in terms of Nana, what's your artist name? Do you go by Nana?
No, so my artist name is Ashea. So
Ashea.
Anae, yeah, Ashea.
Okay, nice. And so what are you doing in terms of Ashea? Are you still rapping? Are you still putting out music?
So the rapping, no, I can't. No, I'm kind of over that. But I think when it comes to rapping, it's one of those things, right? When you're a creative person and you have it never really goes away, right? Mm-hmm. So I think over the last couple of months, I've had some things that I've written down. But I think I'm really focused more so on like the creating the music, connecting with artists that I can work with and build like those good relationships with. But it's also about just expanding and trying different things. What else do I feel like I can do? So again, writing this book has been a big part of it. Where else can I take this book? Thinking of ways to just be more involved, even on like the business side of things as well. I think that's something I'm slowly getting more drawn into, managing artists, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think there's so many different things that I'm kind of thinking of.
That's exciting as well, especially when, like you say, you love being in the studio.
I love it. Yes.
The creative mind is an entrepreneurial mind as well.
Of
so
course.
It's like the evolution as well. We just constantly too many ideas is often
too many ideas. I know, but I do wish, I'm like, I just need to focus on one thing or two things. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I'm grateful for the gift of creativity. I'm super grateful for it. And I just hope, I'm able to continue just to create, contribute more stuff, collaborate, and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So Nana, is there anything else you want to add or share?
What else? I mean, I would love for the listeners to get a copy of the book, Delasi On A Mission. It's available on Amazon. It's a great read for the young people in your life. Even if you want to read it as an adult, go for it. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. No shame. No shame.
Yeah, no shame. No, go for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love for you to connect with the book. If anybody's listening that just wants to collab, because I'm big on collaboration as well. I'm always thinking, okay, how can I work with people, collaborate with peers on ideas, concepts. Let's just do what we can to bring things to life.
Definitely.
Happy for you to reach out too. And
nice.
So, yeah.
Well, you sound like you've got loads of exciting things happening. So
thank you. Yes.
I'm sure all our listeners are wishing you the best of luck with all of that. And we'll definitely check out the book as well.
Thank you so much for your time. This has been great.
Well, that's all we have time for, but thank you very much to Nana, and we'll be back next time for another edition of the Production Expert Podcast.